very excited to be here. I'm excited. I've seen a lot of my friends up doing testimonials and things. And I look back over the last 26 years that I've been in LegalShield and love hearing Will Dodsey always, because he's always got so much energy, and just appreciate everyone being here. Thank you for the friendship that we've been able to share over the years. And most importantly, I want to just tell you that I'm very grateful for the opportunity to visit with you all today for a few minutes. I want to kind of start with belief. I want to kind of start where Will dropped off. I want to pick up from there, if you don't mind, because when I first, before I started with LegalShield, I was a corporate guy, right? I grew up as a young child with 5 dads growing up. I never met my real father. My real last name was Davis. When I was 3 years old, Smith adopted me and changed my name to Smith. I never met Davis that I can remember in my lifetime, because I was only 3 when I was adopted. But all of my fathers were alcoholics, and I took on some severe beatings and everything that went along with it. My namesake Smith was an Air Force pilot, and my mother loved people in uniform, and he was an Air Force pilot, and he was an incredible man that taught me everything: baseball, golf, fishing. I mean, you name it, he taught it to me. But he also would beat me pretty severely, because he'd drink a quart of vodka a day. And whenever I was working with him or doing something, if I did something wrong, he'd slap me across the head and knock me into a wall. And and I still love this guy today. I mean, I lost him when he was 18 to cancer from alcohol. But I mean, this is a man that taught me, he instilled manners, he instilled proper work ethic, proper work discipline. I feel like Smith actually helped me become the man I am today because of all the things he taught me in my youth, even though I took on some severe beatings in process. When I went through school, my third father got drunk one night, threw me through a sheetrock wall when I was 16 years old, and my other brother took him out in the front yard and beat the crap out of him. And my brother and I moved out, and I think I just turned 17, and we moved out and got an apartment on our own. And I was working at Orange Julius from 6 to midnight every night, trying to pay for my rent and groceries and everything that went along with that. And of course, by the time I got home and did homework, it was 2 a.m. Then I had to get up and go to school. And I finally just realized I couldn't do it all. So I quit school my senior year in high school and didn't finish high school, and because I had to work to pay the bills. And so in August of 69, and I realize that's a long time ago to most of you, August of 1969, I turned 18. And by October, Vietnam was hot and heavy, and it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me to think about going, and trying to get a GED or get my diploma, and then going and spending 4 years in college only to get drafted, maybe to go to Vietnam and then maybe lose my life. It just didn't, that agenda just didn't seem to really be in my best interest. So I decided to volunteer in October 69. I decided to volunteer, join the Army, go to basic AIT jump school. And then I volunteered for Vietnam. And my first tour, shortly before my first tour was up, some things happened that made me want to volunteer and go back again. And I came home for a brief 30-day leave, and then went back to Vietnam for my second tour. And about 4.5 months into it, our unit was withdrawn from a combat zone, sent back to the continental United States. And then I spent the next 7 or 8 months just jumping out of airplanes, helicopters, jets, you name it, I was jumping out of it. Yeah, I see you out there, Claude. And airborne all the way, right? And was just having a great time after I got back. But when I got out, I always was raised with good work ethic and work discipline. But when I got out, everywhere I was trying to get a job, nobody wanted to hire me because I was a Vietnam vet. And of course, those of you who know history know that Vietnam veterans and all my fellow friends that are, we didn't get treated real well when we got out, and people looked at us and all we were was baby killers and drug addicts. That's in the way people saw us. And so it was hard to get a job, and the military said that they would give me $300 a month, tax-free unemployment for a year after I got out. And I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to just take that money. So I ended up finally, after about, 10 or 12 interviews, I was at a Kroger store, and they had a position open for a night stalker, where you go in and, get all the groceries out of the back room and put them up on the shelves and stuff. And so it paid $280 a month before taxes, right? And I went and when I was interviewing with the guy said, when he got through looking at my resume, he said, "Where have you been the last 3 years?" And I said, and you know, and I heard that so many times, I just lost my cool. And I said, I was been in the military and I just got back from 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. And I know you don't have any job openings and you'll keep my resume on file, right? And I got up very frustrated and he said, where were you stationed? I said, Bon Song An Khe. And he says, I was in Phu Bai. And he was a vet. And so he hired me. So I took a job making $280 a month before taxes, working a 48-hour graveyard shift because I didn't want to draw the $300 a month unemployment. So I grew up with good work ethic. And from that point, I ended up joining the Pillsbury Company at the age of 25. And I spent 10 years with Pillsbury. I became a district manager with them. And they required a college degree, right? Pillsbury required a college degree. I had a high school GED, but I was highly decorated in Vietnam. And where most people's educational part of their resume was my medals from Vietnam. And it just so happens that the district manager with Pillsbury was also a highly decorated combat vet. And he pulled some strings. I took some tests. I ended up getting the job and I spent 10 years with him. Then they wanted me to move to Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I went, that's too cold for me. I've been there a few times in things I was working on with Pillsbury because that's where the corporate headquarters was. And I said, I don't want to go to that someplace that cold. I've been there where the wind chill was 65 below zero. And I said, not for me. So I left Pillsbury with another Pillsbury guy. And we went down to Dallas and headed up a company for about 5 years. I was director of sales. I had about $110 million in P&L responsibility, lots of employees, lots of suppliers, made good money, but didn't really like the industry. So I left the industry after 5 years and actually went out and tried to sell cars for about 4 months. And I just couldn't do that back in those days. The way they treated people, it wasn't in my game plan. So I was interviewed and got a job as a corporate president for the United States division of an international company based in Brisbane, Australia. And so I became a corporate president for this company, finally got to my 6-figure income. I was making $8,500 a month on my salary plus car and bonus and perks and all that stuff. But my salary was $8,500 a month. And so I finally got to 6 figures a year. And about 18 months later, the company closed down worldwide. They were in 32 countries. 12 of our divisions were profitable. Mine was one of them. And all of a sudden, because all the others were losing money, they started siphoning money out of the profitable divisions to pay off the losses of the ones that weren't profitable. And the company closed worldwide. And I was just a couple of years older than Will Dotsey is now. I was 44, unemployed, knew how to make money, had good work ethic, good work discipline, but didn't know what to do with the money. I knew how to make money, but like so many people, we know how to make money, but we don't know what to do with it. So we just seem to let it slip through our fingers. We live check to check. We have credit card debt. And I learned in my financial education that if you carry a balance on credit card debt, it just means you're living beyond your means, right? And I had credit card debt, but when all that happened, I'm going like, what am I going to do? Well, it just so happened that 3 weeks before that company closed down, I had seen an article in a magazine from Michael Dorsey. And I didn't know at the time, but it was an aerial photo of this beautiful house in Georgia. And it said, I'm living the lifestyle of my dreams from the privacy of my home. And I called the number. And because I was skeptical, my legal name is James Lawrence Smith. I go by Larry, but my legal name is James Lawrence. So I was skeptical. So when I called Michael, I told him my name was James Smith because nobody calls me James. So I knew if he ever called and said is James there? And I didn't want to talk to him. I could say, oh, he's not here right now or something like that, right? But so I talked to Michael. And when he started presenting the membership, and this is back when we had black and white brochures and we didn't have audio tapes, videotapes, CDs, mobile apps. We wouldn't even have websites for the company, right? It was just black and white. And I had one of those old fax machines that had thermal paper that would roll up and turn dark if you didn't read it real quick. And so Michael started faxing me all this stuff, and I ended up shutting the fax machine off because it was just rolling up on the floor. But then, you know, the one thing he told me was about the will preparation. Now, I was 44, had a family, didn't have a will. That was something I knew I needed. But, you know, you go to a law firm today, and I don't remember what the cost was back then. I knew I couldn't afford it. But you go to a law firm today, and they want a couple of grand to do what we do as part of $25 a month. And whatever they wanted back then, I knew I couldn't afford it. So when Michael said they'd do your last will and testament, and that's all they were doing at that time, your last will and testament, as part of that $25. And I said, how long is the contractual obligation? He said, there's no contract. here's what I was thinking, gang. I was thinking, I'm going to get the membership. I'm going to get my will done. And then if I don't use it, I'll just cancel it because I'd only used an attorney once in my life. I was so busy as a corporate president. I didn't even think about having time to do the business with him, but I wasn't aware that the company was going to close down at that time either. This is what I mean about timing in people's lives, right? So 3 weeks after I bought the membership, the company closes down. And about a month later, I take a ring to a jeweler to get some work done on it. The jeweler says he's going to fix it, but instead of fixing it, he ruins it, and then he won't do anything about it. So I walked out of a store all frustrated, and I thought, what about that legal thing I bought? And back then we had membership cards. So I pulled out my membership card and I called the toll-free number, and I talked to an attorney by the name of Sue Price from Barker Stanberry in California, where I was living at the time. And she spent 45 minutes on the phone asking me all these questions about what happened. So I shared the information with her, and she said, Larry, she said, give me this guy's name and phone number. I'm gonna get you your money for your ring. And I said, ma'am, I'm sorry, I don't have any money to do this. I'm unemployed right now, and I'm broke, and I'm living on the edge, and I don't know how I'm gonna pay my grocery bill. I certainly can't pay you. And she said, Mr. Smith, this is all part of your 25 bucks a month. And I said, well, here's his name and number, right? So she makes a phone call to this guy, and I don't know what she said to him, but I still dream about it from time to time, because when she called me back 15 minutes later, she said, I'm going to fax your release of liability, sign it, and go get a check. And I said, like when? And she said, like today. And so I signed this thing. I walked back into the jewelry store that afternoon. And as soon as I walked in, the jeweler said, this is a sham. And he hands me a check for $2,152.32 to reimburse me for the ring that he ruined after he'd already told me he wasn't going to do anything about it. And of course, I went straight to his bank. I cashed the check, and I'm standing here in this bank lobby in 1996 with one of those white bank envelopes with this money in cash inside this bank envelope. And I'm standing here looking at this money going like, oh my God, that one transaction just paid for my membership for 7.5 years. And I went, I got to find out more about what this guy does for a living. So I called Michael back, and within about 5 minutes, he had Dave Savola on a 3-way call with me. And back in those days, because we didn't have any tools, Dave did a 1-hour 3-way call with me, 15 minutes on the company, 15 minutes on the product, 15 minutes on the comp, 15 minutes on how to join in the timing. And that's the way he taught us to do presentations. And then he invited me to the live event. Well, I was living in Orange County, California, right? In Irvine at the time. And Dave said that he invited me to a live event. And I said, where's it going to be? He said, in Orange County. I said, I'll be there. So as soon as we disconnect and Michael and I are continuing to talk, he says, okay. He says, the meeting will be at the Hampton Inn in Altamont Springs, Florida. And I said, oh, what do you mean Florida? And he said, well, Dave told you it was in Orange County. I said, yeah, but I'm in Orange County, California, not Orange County, Florida. And he said, well, you got to get here. Now, I was dead broke, gang. I'm telling you, I had credit card debt. I had credit cards maxed out. I had one credit card left that had room. And I bought a plane ticket to go to this event because of what happened with that jewelry issue. I believe I became a product of the product instantly because of what happened. And so I turned around and maxed out a credit card, bought the ticket out there, and we walked into the Hampton Inn Altamont Springs. There was 188 people in that meeting. We had no PowerPoints. Dave stood in front of the room with this little brochure that he would turn the pages and tell the story. And then he wrote down the comp plan on this crooked whiteboard. And I had no clue what he was even referring to. But afterwards, Mike Dorsey, Michael's father, and Mike, and Cleve Pickens and Dave and I, we went out and had dinner together. And at dinner, I asked Dave how long he'd been with the company. He said 3 years. And I said, do you mind if I ask how much money you made? He said 1.2 million. And I went, how do you make $1 million marketing a $25 product? And he said, there's 5 keys to success. And that's when he went through his 15-minute show. You may or may not be interested, 2 a day in a weekly meeting. And after he got done, I kind of chuckled at him and I said, Dave, it can't be that simple to make $1 million. And he said, then why don't you go do it your way? Now, here I am dead broke. I can't even hardly afford to get on a plane to get back. And Dave's making $1 million. And I'm going like, you know what? I'm going to listen to him. And so I went back home. I started part-time doing exactly what Dave, I stayed in Altamont Springs for another day and a half while Cleve Pickens and Michael trained me. And then I went home and I had to start my own meeting. I was brand new and had to start a meeting because we didn't have any other way to do things back then. And Dave always told me, he said, just remember, when you're doing the meeting, whether you're right or wrong, the only person that may know it is you, because the people in the audience, they're not going to know it. So I started recruiting people and stuff. My first month, I made about $700. I was working 10 hours a week. My second month, I made $2,800. My third month, I made $4,100. And that's what I needed to make my bills, was $4,000 a month. So when I made $4,100 my third month, Michael Dorsey said, you got to come to convention. It's convention time. I said, what's convention? He explained it. I turned around and said, Michael, I can't afford to go to convention. And I'll never forget this. Michael said, that'll be your excuse why you don't go, or your reason why you do go. And I said, what do you mean? He said, some people will say, I'm broke, I can't afford to go to convention. Other people will say, I'm broke, I can't afford not to go to convention. It all depends on what you believe, which is what Will was talking about. And so somehow I got to convention, right? And I slept in a sleeping bag. Listen to this carefully. I slept in a sleeping bag in somebody else's hotel room floor, and I had a backpack full of water bottles, granola bars, and peanuts because I couldn't afford the restaurants except when Michael treated me. And that Saturday night when Mr. Stonecipher, our founder, did his keynote speech, I was all in. I said, that's it. I'm drawing the line in the sand. I came back home. I had 2 part-time jobs, working at a grocery store, sacking groceries after being a corporate president, throwing a 3:30 a.m. paper route after being a corporate president. So I get it, right? I was just broke because I didn't know what to do with the money. I just knew how to make it. And so all of a sudden I'm sitting here going like, okay, now I'm going to go all in. And I went full time, and I was brought up under the same comp plan that Will Dotsey was, where we had to have 75 membership sales a month. We could only count director legs, not open line teams. You couldn't count more than 25 sales from one leg. You couldn't count your own personal sales. It was hard. And Will got to ED in 5 months. I got to ED in 8 months. But because of the recruiting we had done, my 9th month in the company, my income went over $10,000 a month. Now, it took me 20 years in corporate to get to 8,500. My income went over $10,000 a month. My 9th month in LegalShield, more than I made in 20 years in corporate. And I was controlling my own future because nobody else controlled it for us. So I realized a lot at that point about evolution of a belief system. I want to kind of share my screen with you for just a minute, because I think it's important that we really talk about the evolution of a belief system, because I think it'll help you all to understand why so many people struggle as it relates to getting started and believing they can, because Will talked about this. So I'm going to talk about what I call the evolution of a belief system, because when we're kids, parents, teachers, coaches, clergy, friends, relatives and other people of influence say to us as children, this is fact, right? And we turn around, because we're children, we accept the elder's perception of what is fact, even if the elder is completely wrong. And then as children, we unconsciously ingrain these beliefs in our subconscious, and we build habits accordingly. And then we grow into an adult operating under dozens of faulty beliefs and habits, and we're not even consciously aware that they're faulty, because that's how we were raised. And then the adult operates under false and limiting beliefs and sets invisible boundaries of his or her lifestyle at an unconscious level. We do this all the time. And these are the things I'm talking about. At the dinner table, I remember our parents always saying, we don't talk about money. Debt is bad. Pay cash for everything. Money isn't that important. No, that's a pyramid, right? My own brother told me that LegalShield was a pyramid, and I asked him what a pyramid was, and he said, well, that's where the people at the top make all the money. And I said, so who do you report to in your job? And he said, my district manager. I said, does he make a bonus off of your store? And he said, yes. I said, who does the district manager report to? He said, the zone manager. I said, does the zone manager make a bonus off the district? He said, yes. I said, who does the zone manager report to? He said, the owner. I said, do you think the owner makes a bonus? And he said, of course he does. And I said, so if a pyramid is where the people at the top make all the money, what is your possibility of going from store manager to owner? And he said, well, that'll never happen. I said, sounds like a pyramid to me, right? I just took him at what he said a pyramid was. I said, when I started with LegalShield, I started at the top. I didn't start at the bottom. I started at the top, meaning I was the CEO of my business. I could make it as big or as small as I wanted based on my own work ethic and my work belief and how much effort I put into it, because nobody else dictated my income except me. Because here's what we were taught was normal. I mean, you look at this rush hour traffic, right? And I grew up like this. I spent most of my years, 20 years, doing that exact thing, because ordinary was getting dressed in clothes that you buy for work, right? Then you drive through traffic in a car that you still owe money on in order to get to the job that you need to pay for the clothes and the car. Oh yeah, and the house you leave vacant all day long so you can afford to live in it. See, extraordinary is not doing that. And that's what I learned, is that if you wanted to be extraordinary, you couldn't do that. You had to change something. And so I was open to change. And that's why it was so important for me to find something that I had a lot more control of. So all of a sudden I'm going on, and by, my first year in the company, I made $64,000. And by the way, I was fortunate because I had a big team, unlike Will, who may or may not have had a big of a team at that point. He got to ED faster than I did, but when I got to ED in 9 months, I've never been out of ED status in 26 years. And it's because of what it required, that foundation to really get into ED status. And so, I made 64,000 my first year. And now listen, my second year, I made 224,000. Right? And that was more than double what I made after 20 years in corporate America. Again, please try to, don't judge me here. I knew how to make money. I still didn't know what to do with it. I was getting $1,000 a day. I was making $30,000 a month in 1997 and still didn't know what to do with it. And one day I got sick, and I was bedridden for about a week. And all I was watching was this money stacking up in my bank account because I couldn't go anywhere. And all this, and I'm going like, oh my gosh, I'm making so much money and I have no idea what to do with it. So I paid $5,000. I went to a seminar with Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, in Denver, Colorado. And I spent a weekend with Robert. And at the end of that weekend, let me tell you what I learned. I knew nothing at 45 years old. I knew nothing about how money worked. And if I intended to ever having any, I had to figure out how money worked. I bought every book he made, every audio tape he made. I bought everything that he had at that weekend conference. And I came home and I made a commitment to start studying money. And I did. Well, 4.5 years in the LegalShield, I was actually inducted into the inaugural Millionaires Club. So I was in the first group that was in the Millionaires Club. And then, I started building. And listen, like any business, you've got years that your business is growing. You've got years that it's going to come down some. It's not always up and to the right. Apple doesn't do that. Google doesn't do that. Microsoft hadn't done that. Neither will our business, right? So you're going to have years of ups and downs. So if you spend when you're making money, and I've watched people do this in LegalShield, I've watched them buy Lamborghinis and all of a sudden their income drops and now they're having to get rid of everything to try to survive. And so I realized that I had to learn how money worked, and I started going through that process. And that's when things started changing, right? And my best month in LegalShield, I made $82,800 in 30 days, 1 month in the company. It was my best month so far. And and it's not about the money, but it's about the money when you don't have money. When you're struggling financially, it's always about the money. But when you get beyond money, it becomes so much bigger, so much more important than it's ever been. And so as we look at our future of LegalShield, we have to realize I went from black and white spreadsheets, if you will, and compensation plans that were copied so many times you couldn't hardly read them, to mobile app technology. I don't know if you have not downloaded the new member app, and you probably went through this on your Super Saturday, but if you haven't downloaded the brand new member app for LegalShield, delete your old one, download the new one, go back into Google Play or the App Store and put your new one up and use it. Gang, this is a game changer. Everybody's going to want to own this membership. So make sure, if you haven't done that yet, you do it when this Super Saturday is over. So once I started realizing that you can have whatever you want, and like Will's $100,000 a year as earned, I'm a $500,000 ring earner as earned as well. I don't take any advanced commissions. I don't have any advanced recovery. I'm as earned. So I mean, that money comes in whether I get out of bed or not. So now I'm going to tell you the better part of the story, and then I'm going to wrap up because I don't want to go any longer. I know 4 o'clock was our deadline, but let me tell you the rest of the story. So you get to a point where, Mr. Stonecipher sold me a dream. He said, Larry, you work like you did in corporate America for yourself for 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it takes. And then you can live your dream for the rest of your life because of residual income. See, when I lost my job because the company closed down in corporate, I lost my income. I'd spent 20 years, 11 relocations in 20 years, crawling that corporate ladder. Finally got to the top as a corporate president and had the ladder pulled out right from underneath me at no cause of my own. But when they closed down, they stopped paying me and the bills kept coming. That was not the way I wanted to live my life. So building a residual income made more sense. Today, that money comes in whether I get out of bed or not. And that's what you want in retirement. I'll be 70 this month on August the 20th. I call myself a Medicare millennial because I'm 70 with the energy of a 35-year-old. But in reality, I want you all to understand one very important thing is it's about money until you get to the money you need. And then you have to have a bigger reason, which is always helping others. When I did my Legends of LegalShield testimonial at the last convention, it's available in Prospect by LegalShield. But when I did that testimonial, I didn't realize I did it until I saw the video, but I literally started getting choked up crying because of how bad my heart hurts when people are in financial struggles, because I've been there so many times. I wrote a $49 hot check to start my LegalShield business. After 20 years in corporate jobs, I didn't have $49 in my LegalShield business, right? Today alone, my portfolio today in 24 hours is up almost $40,000 in one day from just a few of my investments, not from my LegalShield, not from my real estate, but just from a few of my investments. My portfolio is up almost $40,000 today because of what I learned financially over the years on how to treat and respect and grow your income. Brian and I, Crothers and I talk about this all the time. We just got through playing 2 rounds of golf in Cabo. We love talking about money. And just like Brian today, my net worth today is, now hear what I'm saying, because Brian made a good point of it today too. My net worth is more than all the money I've made in my entire life. All the money, LegalShield, everything I've been paid my whole life, my net worth today is larger than all the money I've been paid because how I've learned to grow my money, right? That's a big deal. So I'm going to wrap up by just sharing a few more slides with you, because here's what happened. In December of this year, my wife and I decided that we want to go out and get a little camper van for the weekends, right? We want to get a little camper van with, one of those sleepover things where you go out for the weekend and hang out and have a van to sleep in. When we went down to the RV lot, we realized that things have changed, right? And so we started looking for 3 months. We went back and forth to that RV lot, and we ended up buying a 40-foot RV, right? Brand new. I never buy brand new things, but I bought a brand new RV because I wanted to make sure, because of all the moving parts, that we had all the components right. So I went ahead and got that new RV, but in the process, let me go through a couple of things here. There's the RV, right? It was a 2021 Fleetwood Discovery LXE. Sticker price was well over $400,000. Brand new. I bought it for $296. And we went out and we scheduled a 33-day RV trip to go see our grandkids, right? All over Texas. We scheduled 33 days. So we said, hey, why don't we put our house up on vacation rental, VRBO, Verbo, for the 33 days while we're gone? Well, within 48 hours, we had all 33 days booked at $700 a night, over 20 grand just from putting our house up on VRBO, because my wife, we just got featured, the home got featured in, this is called Life Around the Lakes. It's a publication that goes out, and the Smiths find their paradise in Arrowhead Lakes. My wife remodeled the entire house with James Bauer, a good friend of ours. We got a huge pool with waterfalls, hot tubs, all kinds of great stuff. And so now the house is renting out for between $450 and $700 a night, depending on whether it's summer or winter. And you can tell it's a big coach. I could stick Donnie right down there into one of those trays and be good. It's got full-size washer and dryer, full-size shower. It's a bath and a half with his and her sinks. We have a recliner directly across from the recliners. We have a 49-inch TV that comes up out of the wall. This is her kitchen. She's got a full-size residential refrigerator, a farmhouse sink, a convection oven and microwave or dishwasher, backsplash. I mean, she's having some great fun out here. We got a fireplace. We got heated floors. It's just loaded up, man. Big captain's chairs. That's Donnie and the thing. We got a king size bed back here in the back that the slide comes in and out of. Great lighting. That's in front of our house in Glendale. And you might recognize some of these people, Mark and Leslie Udy, the MVPs of Arizona, and I think it's New Mexico, and my son and his family, me and Michelle Walters and Kenyatta Turner. We had a lot of friends come over and just had them over. This is kind of camping out, having fun, enjoying the life. And listen, when you don't have to worry about money because it's coming in, whether you get out of bed or not, you start to really enjoy life. And by the way, this is my outside TV as watching TV while I'm sitting out by the fire pit and stuff. Donnie and I just hanging out, having fun. And I want to show you the difference in good debt and bad debt. Then I'm going to wrap up. So we have our mortgage on our house is at 2.375%. The payment's $3,800 a month. The RV, we have mortgage at 4% for 1606. Now, can I write a check and pay both those off? Absolutely. Why don't I do it? Because in the last 12 months, my average return on my investments has averaged 42% return. So think about it. If you took $100,000 and you can get 42% return, would you rather put the $100,000 in investments and get the 42% return, or would you rather pay off a loan at 2.375, losing 42%, or 4%, losing 42%? But they are liabilities. These are the only two liabilities that we own. But here's an example. This is what we made just in 1 month. In really June, the hottest month, one of the hottest months of the year. And we had every night booked except the first 5. That was how much money that we made in the month of June for our VRBO. So good debt can create assets and bad debt can destroy you. So this good debt, this asset paid off our good debt, because these are generators, right? And gave us an additional $3,700 in positive cash flow for additional investment income. And so as we wrap up, I just want to let you know that I wrote a book called Dare to Get Rich, Shorten Your Learning Curve. I wrote it in October of 19. It's new on Audible because a lot of people said they would love to get it on Audible. It's now on Audible. It costs you 1 credit. So if you want to go look it up on Audible, you can do that. And because this is your Social Saturday, I'm going to offer a 25% discount on my hardback book for this overview. So if you want to buy the book, I'm happy to autograph it for you and everything. This is where you need to go. The book is not on Amazon because we have, our company handles that privately, but the Audible, the Audible is on Amazon. But if you want to buy the book, just go to loveandmoneyhacks.com. It's $19.95 and hardback, personally autographed to you. It's for your special Saturday. And as soon as you buy the book, as soon as your credit card processes, my team will refund you 25% of which is $4.95. So you'll save 25% and get it for $15. So, the only thing I can tell you more than important than anything else is right now, I look at, and I'll just use Will because he was on before me. I look at Will at basically the same age group that I was in when I started. And he's got all these years already in LegalShield. And so I want you all to understand that we have so much more today than we ever had during my years, that if you get focused and you get committed, I promise you, you can get wherever you want to get here. And I would strongly encourage you to do it through building a team, through recruiting. Excuse me. We do have people that make strong 6-figure incomes just marketing our product, but listen very carefully. If you're the only one writing business in your business, the day you stop working, if there's no new business going into your business, the only way your income can go over time is down. You'll get residuals, but people will die, people will cancel, people will leave companies, you can't find them. Your money's going to go down because there's no new business going into your business. I can today do whatever I want to do And even if I don't go to work, my income can grow because I've got a team that's had massive success and they're continuing to grow new business in my company. So please make sure whether you can recruit in business solutions. It doesn't mean you got to be network marketing if that's not for you, but if you love to sell, there's millions of people that do. Go find them and teach them how to sell LegalShield and build a team where you can have leveraged income, because the best we were looking at today is still way out in front of us. And I encourage all of you to make that commitment, to have that belief and take advantage of what LegalShield has to offer today. So Daniel, I'm sorry for going over a few minutes, but I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you all. It was great seeing so many of my great friends. Will, thanks for your great training as well. And look forward to seeing everybody in Phoenix, Arizona, October 1st, my hometown, for the Leadership Summit. We got a lot of exciting announcements we're going to be making on the 1st of October, that convention. Daniel, back to you, sir.